What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio in the Draftkings Picks and Prediction Show. We go live every Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time with me, Weezy, Luke, and MMA Monk. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, as well as always, we're going to go through our fight to target, our fighter to fade, fight to fade, favorite dog, favorite GPP play, favorite cash play, favorite value play, favorite dart throw, go through our quick picks, answer any questions you guys have, talk about the lineups last week, see how he did, and give our lineups for this week. So as always, Weezy, what is up? You looking forward to this card?
I am, man. It's, when I first looked at it last week, when I saw some of those fights, and I remember I read off all the fights on this card to finish off last week's show. It looked like a dumpster fire. But now that I've dug into it a little bit more, and now that Johnny Parsons is off the card, I feel like it's a lot higher level, and we can all enjoy all these fights. So, yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to this one. Can't wait to chop it up with you guys.
Yeah, it's an all right card. Monk, how about you? Looking forward to the card?
Shots fired at Johnny Parson, catching strays left and right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this card. Honestly, I was thinking same as Weezy. We got Wellington Turman on the co-main, but we just came off of a Jamie Pickett co-main. So, I mean, come on now. What are we talking about? I think there's some sneaky good fights on this card, and actually a lot of fighters I'm looking forward to seeing again. So I'm stoked for it.
Yeah, I feel like they're trying to piss people off. Like last week with Jamie Pickett on the co-main, when there could have been other fights, and then this week with the Turman fight, I feel like there could be a couple other fights. So I don't know why they're doing that, but we'll see how that goes. And then Luke, are you looking forward to this card?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything special from like an overall name value perspective, but there are a lot of fun fights on it. I think a lot of props does need to be given to King Bobby for stepping in, because if we lost that as the main and they just canned that as a whole, I mean, man, this card would be really brutal from a name value perspective. So props to King Bobby, but yeah, a lot of fun fights, and hopefully we can make some money this week.
Yeah, Bobby Green definitely saved the card for sure. People are really excited for this main event, and as am I. Do want to shout out the chat before we get started. We have Raw Torque, first one in here. We have D-Rub. We have John as well, Gaming Wolf. Johnny Parsons, the man, the myth, the legends in the chat. Shout out Mr. Johnny Parsons. Hopefully we see you in the UFC very soon. We have Chris in the chat as well. And we have a big checks only Adam, Planet Whisperer, and Gaming Wolf saying hit the likes. I agree, hit the like button. It really does help us out here. But as always, I say we start with our fight to target. Before we do so, if you guys have not heard, we unfortunately lost Jinyu Fry versus Hannah Goldie. Apparently Goldie is sick, so that fight unfortunately is off the card. But we do have, I think, 11 other fights to work with. So we'll start with the fight to target, and let's kick it off to Weezy. Weezy, what fight are you targeting the most for UFC Vegas 49?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to go a little bit sneaky here, so I went with the Joe Benavidez versus Pasquale fight here. We've got the third best fight doesn't go to decision line on the slate here, and I think it's a sneaky one to target both sides of here. Nunes has the third best inside the distance line on the entire slate at only 8,900, and Pasquale is a decent punt option at 7,300 because she looks to be improving. She's switched her training camp over here to Syndicate in the U.S., kind of trying to take that next step. And there's still a lot of questions left to be answered about Nunes here. We've seen the regional scene footage on her. She can get stuck on her back. We don't really know what the grappling looks like. We don't know what the conditioning is going to look like late in the second, third rounds here. And Pasquale's got a really nice ground game. So I think both sides of this fight are a sneaky one to go after. It's really high on the fight doesn't go to decision ladder there. And I think there's a lot of upside for both of them.
Sounds good. I like it very sneaky as well. Not going with an obvious option there. I like that. Monk, how about you? What are you targeting for this week?
I'll probably go with the more obvious one. I'm going to go Misha Cirkunov and Wellington Turman. Misha Cirkunov has had 11 UFC fights, and 10 of them have ended inside the distance. Only his latest fight, against Krzysztof Jotko ended in split decision. Every other fight, knockout, submission, win, loss, doesn't matter. He averages 107 points per win. He gives up 103.5 when he loses. Wellington Turman gives up almost 100 points per loss, and that's over 3 losses. Guys, Cirkunov has one of the highest raw DraftKings points, or one of the highest paces on the entire card, 4.42 points per minute. Huge differential, great average value. I really like him here. You're actually getting him a little bit cheaper than his average, 83, you're like less than $100 cheaper, but still it's cheaper. And Wellington Turman, I mean, if he can catch Cirkunov, that's a finish on that side. I just really think this one's going to finish inside the distance. I love how Cirkunov scores, and we have an 11 fight sample size. We are triple digits in pretty much every category. 5 out of 6 wins. He's putting up over 100 points. I love this fight to target here, and I will have a huge chunk of Misha Cirkunov and Wellington Turman.
Definitely makes sense to me. Owen saying the Martinez fight is now at 145. Owen, do you know why it's at 145? I think that's very interesting because I am high on Martinez this week. Hopefully he's the weight cut's all right. But for me, I'm going to give a different one here. I really like the Gregory Rodrigues Armen Petrosyan fight here. Rodrigues 8,500, Petrosyan 7,700. I really see this fight playing out one of two ways. Either Rodrigues gets Petrosyan down early. Petrosyan's takedown defense is very suspect. Rodrigues has a legit BJJ black belt. I think he can sub him early, but if he does not sub him early, I could see Rodrigues slowing down and Petrosyan knocking him out late first, second round. So I think someone's getting finished in this fight, and honestly finished probably within the first round and a half. And at these price tags, it's really hard to not see the winner in the optimal lineup. So I really like that fight. Luke, what fight are you targeting this week?
Yeah, I'm right with you too, Brady, with Petrosyan and Rodrigues. Fight best ITD line on the slate at above 75% implied to finish. Rodrigues, 82% finish rate in his Ws. Petrosyan, 100% finish rate in his Ws. We haven't seen Petrosyan face much resistance standing. He did get KO'd once in his only pro loss, but in general, we still haven't seen like a ton of extended range striking exchanges against him. And I do think Rodrigues is the best striker that he's fought to date. So I think that needs to be noted. But on the other side, Brady kind of touched on it, that Petrosyan has some of those like sniper-like tendencies on the outside that I think could give Rodrigues some issues. We've seen Rodrigues KO'd and actually hurt pretty bad in the Park fight, despite him actually being able to finish there. So there's that. I think checking those two finish boxes. Brady, you also touched on the fact that Rodrigues is a pretty solid BJJ black belt, where the guys that are taking down Petrosyan to date so far, more so your grinding Russian Sambo type base guys who aren't really looking to proactively grapple and actually get into dominant positions to submit him. They're more so just looking to ride him. Whereas I think if we see Rodrigues get into those type of positions against Petrosyan, he's going to probably sub him. So I think 3 of those 4 finish boxes are checked. I think it would be smart for Rodrigues to grapple, because I think that's the clearest path to victory in the fight, where the levels are completely different. But if they stand, I think both are live for knockouts. Prices are fair at 8.5, 7.7. So I think you can fit both of them into your constructions.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. So we're on the same page there. Let us move on to the fight to fade. And we were talking about it earlier. We literally all had the Hannah Goldie versus Jinyu Fry. It was the easiest option on there. So now I got to pick a different one here. And honestly, I am struggling to pick a different one. I don't think there's a fight I'd full out fade now that that fight is off. But if I had to pick one, I guess I'll go with the Jonathan Martinez Alejandro Perez fight. I really like Jonathan Martinez in this fight. I did bet Jonathan Martinez, but he's not going to go for takedowns, especially in this matchup. He could KO Perez early, but if not, I could see him winning a decision. And there are other options I do like around that price range, but I'll still have some Martinez. It's just I do like some other guys better. Monk, how about you? What fight are you fading this week?
I had that same one as my backup, so I'll go into my third string fight to fade. I'll go Terence McKinney and Farès Ziam, just based on the fact, Farès Ziam only has 3 fights in the UFC, 2 wins, 56.88 points per win. Guy scores 1.65 raw DraftKings points per minute, super low on the card, one of the lowest ranked fighters. I don't really know what Terence McKinney is going to do. We got a 7-second knockout of Matt Frivola, so that's pretty much out the window there. In fact, I was forced to add his Sean Woodson Dana White Contender Series fight into my database just so it didn't throw off my projections for everyone else because of that 7-second knockout. And he got knocked out in the second round there. 2 takedowns landed. He got knocked down, only landed 8 strikes to 4 strikes for Woodson. That was just a shit show of a fight, if I can recall properly. So I'm going to fade this one just based on Ziam, his overall lack of pace and ability to put points out. When he lost his fight, he only gave up 81 points. So if no one gets a finish here, this one's going to be very low scoring. So I'll focus on that fight as my fight to fade.
All right, Weezy, how about you? What fight are you fading this week?
Yeah, so I'm going to do the Jonathan Martinez Turbo Perez fight as well. That was the one I wrote up initially because I thought that everybody was going to be on the Jin Yu Fry fight. The third worst fight doesn't go to decision on the slate, but now that Jin Yu Fry Hannah Goldie is off, it's the second worst fight doesn't go to decision on the slate. And neither of these guys are particularly high output or grappling dependent. Martinez certainly has more upside than Perez because Martinez has 5 UFC knockdowns, and Turbo Perez has been knocked down 5 times in his UFC career. But Perez scores less than 2 raw DraftKings points per minute and allows just a little over 2. So he's generally like in these slow-paced, low-scoring fights. I think I'm just going to try to stay away from that one, even though I do like Jonathan Martinez as a nice option. Not the highest priced guy, but for a cash lineup, he should win. It's just I don't really see him scoring 110 points or anything like that.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Gary's saying it looks like it's the Perez side that requested the fight to be at Flyweight. Wow, that's pretty interesting there.
Huh.
Luke, how about you?
Yeah, not to parrot everything you guys said, but I'm going Perez Martinez. I actually had this one as my original one, similar to Weezy, because I thought other people would have Frey. So I actually went with this one as my primary. I don't want to parrot everything you guys said, but based on both guys' styles, it just doesn't really translate well to scoring on DraftKings, assuming those finishes don't materialize. Both guys, I think, land less than like 0.6 takedowns per 15 minutes. You can't expect much grappling upside. I also think that Jonathan Martinez's takedown defense is massively leveled up since. Perez's get-up game's pretty strong, even in the scenarios he is taken down usually. So I don't see much merit there. I think we largely see a 15-minute kickboxing affair, which is just not going to do it on this card. I think Perez has only been knocked out once, at least in the UFC, and that was by Song Yadong, who's obviously a fringe top 15 guy, extremely fast. Martinez definitely has some power, but I actually don't think he's like the biggest pure hitter in terms of his hands. A couple of those KOs have came with knees. And Perez does defend strikes at 62%. So I actually do, to your point, Brady, I like Martinez in the fight, and I'm going to be on him in some capacity from a betting perspective, just because I think his pace is more consistent. But from a DraftKings perspective, I'm not a huge fan of this one.
Yep, agree there. Cowabunga, Goldie has some type of illness, so the fight is off. But let's get to our fight to fade. And again, I had Jin Yu Fry, and that was probably the easiest fight to fade all year. But if I had to pick a different one, I want to say a little bit different here. I'm going to fade Bobby Green at 6,700. I just don't really like his chances in this matchup. And I actually do think he's going to have some ownership. A lot of people are pulling for him this weekend, and rightfully so, but I'm going to be very high on Makhachev, and I think Makhachev is going to be like my highest owned fighter this week. So I'm not going to get much Bobby Green at 6,700. I initially thought I would be having some Bobby Green in cash, but I ended up not going there. So I'm going to fade Bobby Green this week at that $6,700 price tag. Luke, how about you? Who are you fading this week?
Originally Frey for me as well, so I'm just going to bump and pitch over to Yeon Kim, kind of winging it here with her, but primarily boxing based, doesn't wrestle at all. We have seen Cachoeira significantly struggle on the mat, but once again, it's really hard for us to anticipate for Kim to come out here and shoot a takedown. I don't think she's landed one in the UFC yet to date. I could be wrong on that. But even in her fight with McCann, despite her losing, I think she landed 122 significant strikes. In a loss, I think she scored like 56 points or something. So even in a win there, you add that extra 20, she would have still only scored 77 points in landing 122 significant strikes. And that's like, I think, probably what we see here. It's going to be a super high action affair. Both girls' defense sucks. They're going to throw a ton of volume. But even in a Kim win, for her to 10x, she's going to have to KO Cachoeira, which is incredibly difficult to do because Cachoeira is tough as shit, or she's going to have to come out here and put on her singlet and show off some wrestling and grappling skills that she hasn't before. So 8.6 is a pretty clear fade for me on Kim.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I am picking her to win, but it's not likely she knocks out Cachoeira at all. Monk, how about you? Who are you fading this week?
I'm going to go back to Farès Ziam just because his numbers are so extremely low. He could very well finish Terence McKinney, I guess. Maybe, but if it's not inside the first round, I really don't see how he's going to make the optimal lineup. I won't keep repeating the same numbers, but the important one is only 1.65 points per minute for Farès Ziam. He gets those points only 1.17 come from striking per minute, no knockdown points. He has 0.11 takedown points per minute and barely any control time. Those grappling points are pretty much less than average for the entire card. He gets taken down at a rate, he allows 1 takedown point per minute and 0.8 control time points per minute. Terence McKinney did show off his ability to wrestle in his very first fight against Sean Woodson, I believe. Landing those 2 takedowns. So his numbers are pretty high there, but very small sample size. But until Ziam shows me something more than like 60 points in a win, I feel pretty comfortable fading him. And he's 8,400, so he is the favorite salary of the pair. So you do get a bit of salary relief just on that fade. So I'm going with Ziam here.
Sounds good to me. Weezy, how about you? Who are you fading this week?
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously Jin Yu Fry, and then obviously it would have been Yeon Kim because she can't hit water if she fell out of a boat. And then she doesn't deal with pressure well. And the Cachoeira is the zombie girl. She's never going to stop walking forward. And like Luke said, you got to bring a shovel into the cage in order to knock Cachoeira out. So I agree with everything that Luke said there. I'll give you one more, though. I think Ignacio Bahamondes is entirely too expensive this week. I think, $9,000 is just way too much. And if you kind of look at what Rong Zhu did in his last fight, dude's training at ATT now. He's 21 years old. He's only getting better, and it looks like he's a wrestler now. So if he can get that wrestling game going, I think Ignacio Bahamondes' 100% takedown defense is just a little bit fraudulent. He's really only stopped takedowns from that guy that he fought on the Contender Series who, boy, he looked like he should have been a flyweight. I mean, that was a bad fight. And then Roosevelt Roberts, I'm just not sure what kind of takedown offense that guy brings to the table anymore here. I think he's going to be defending a lot of takedowns from Rong Zhu. I think Rong Zhu is very live here at the price. And it's not that I don't think Ignacio could get a big win here or even get a big knockout. It's just that at $9,000, you look at the salaries that are around Ignacio, and I think a lot of them are a lot higher upside and have a lot higher of a winning percentage, in my opinion. So that'll be my fade for this week.
Sounds good to me. Let us move on to the next thing here. We have our favorite dog. I'll let you kick this one off, Monk.
I am going to go with my guy Rong Zhu here, $7,200. I mean, how can you not like all the things Weezy just said about him? Plus, he's going up against a pretty unproven Bahamondes who, lost to John McDessie in his UFC debut and then beat Roosevelt Roberts, but at the very last second on a very impressive spinning kick KO. But I'm pretty sure Roosevelt Roberts is no longer even in the UFC. So I don't really know how much merit that win gives Ignacio. If he comes out and starches Zhu here, then then I will have a different opinion. But until then, I mean, Rong Zhu put up 4.7 points per minute, scored 146 in his one UFC victory. I mean, how do you not love that? One of the highest average values, 11.03. He even scored 38 when he lost. So he's not putting up like single digits, in his one loss here. He did score pretty well. That's 7,200. Here's my salary voodoo for the week. The 9,000 and 7,200 salary pair. The winner of that fight makes the optimal lineup 65% since January 1st of 2021. That is the second highest salary pair on the card. So you should really bump your exposures, most cases to both guys. But in this case, for me, I'll be bumping it for Rong Zhu. I mean, his takedown offense, which I think, like Weezy said, Bahamondes is a bit fraudulent there. Rong Zhu is going to be able to take this guy down how many times? 4, 5, 6. You might need the count from fucking Sesame Street to get involved in this case. So I'm going to take Rong Zhu for my favorite dog of the week.
Sounds good. I like it. I like some Rong Zhu as well. And he also dyed his hair
feels
pink.
So right. He's Rong Zhu, but it feels so right.
Once I saw his pink hair, I put him right into my lineup for the show. So hopefully the pink hair comes through. But for me, I'm gonna go with Terence McKinney, 7,800. This guy's a finisher, a 100% finish rate. The majority of those coming in the first round. I believe he has one third round finish as well that came in the first couple seconds of that third round. And he also has a wrestling background, wrestled in high school, wrestled in college as well. And I feel like he could take down Ziam, get some takedown points. He has a very underrated submission game as well. Ziam's been submitted 2 times. times. I just think he has some really good finish upside, and I see this line closing a little bit. I wouldn't be shocked if it was a pick'em by the time the fight started. Maybe even McKinney is a slight favorite as well. So I think there's going to be some odds value. But yeah, give me the guy with the 100% finish rate, wrestling background, and I think McKinney has a good chance to pull off the upset here. Weezy, how about you? Who's your favorite dog this week?
Yeah, it's Rong. I wasn't planning on giving you Ignacio Bahamondes as the fade, but we lost that fight last minute. So, I got to echo everything that Monk said here. Rong has 9 takedowns in 2 UFC fights, been training at ATT. We saw the improvement in his wrestling the last fight out against Brandon Jenkins. Only 21 years old, getting better by leaps and bounds, just like Ignacio is at his very young age as well. I think the best way for Rong to deal with Ignacio's length and superior striking is to pressure him and employ a wrestling-heavy game plan. If he achieves that, he has a really high ceiling and a good chance to flat out win the fight at 7,200, man. That's what you're looking for in a dog. High grappling upside, a good chance to win the fight, and having an avenue to achieve that. And we've seen him really work that wrestling in the last fight, and I think we could see it again.
And a beautiful head of hair as well.
Just a beautiful head of hair. You got that right, man. And, I think if you look at Monk's numbers, when you look at a beautiful head of hair, it makes the optimal lineup over 83% of the time. So,
and I would know. I would know about beautiful heads of hair.
Definitely. Luke, how about you? What are you liking?
A beard is on the head, for the record. Beard is on the head.
Yeah, I like McKinney at 7.8 as well. You're obviously playing with some variance on the kid, given his lack of overall fight time as a pro, but hard to ignore his upside with the 7th best inside the distance line on the slate and being only the 10th cheapest fighter. Obviously finished all 11 of his pro wins. People know him as a striker. Recent KOs, you kind of brought it up, Brady, as well, but he does come from that wrestling background. He's a competent grappler as well with 5 wins via submission. And it's important to note the floor has been the primary struggle for Ziam in terms of dropping minutes, rounds, and fights in the UFC. We also saw Ziam get clipped in the 3rd against Vendramini, so he's not immune to being hurt despite him being the more credentialed striker on paper here. So you have to like the kid's upside and to win. I don't think he's just this KO or bust archetype that necessarily people are making him out to be. I do think he has the background to exploit some of the weaknesses we've seen in Ziam's game, and that I think he can land multiple takedowns, potentially has another route to finish in this fight as well. So you got to have a decent amount of McKinney at 7.8, in my opinion.
Sounds good to me. I agree. Nicholas, what's up, y'all? How you doing? We got Clint in the chat. Perez side requested up. Yeah, that is very interesting. I thought it would have been Martinez, but guess not. What's up, Jake, as well? Let us move on to our favorite GPP play. For me, I'm going to start it off. I'll go with Ramiz Brahimaj at 9,300. I think this guy is going to come out here and just give it a good old-fashioned ass beating to Michael Gilmore. I don't think Michael Gilmore is UFC caliber at all, really. He's been finishing all of his losses, got finished in the first round on The Ultimate Fighter. The submission defense definitely lacks. The takedown defense lacks. Ramiz Brahimaj, phenomenal wrestler, phenomenal grappler. I guess the one concern I'd have and why I'm not sure if I'm going to go like all in on Brahimaj is the fact that his gas tank is very questionable, very suspect. When fights leave the first round, he typically does lose, but I just think he's going to have such a big advantage in the first round on the mat that he's going to get that sub. I think he has one of the highest upsides on the slate as well. I just don't see Gilmore giving him much resistance, but if Gilmore can't survive that first round, I will definitely be sweating, but hopefully he doesn't get to that point. So give me Ramiz Brahimaj, 9,300. I think he does shave some ass. Weezy, how about you? What do you like for GBP?
Yeah, well, I got Ramiz down as my ass shaving of the week here, and it's we got Gilmore moving back down to 170 here, but yet all 3 of Gilmore's submission losses were at 170. So turns out he's just as bad of a grappler at 170 as he is at 185. You got Ramiz coming in on short notice. I mean, you really got to believe that if Ramiz doesn't shoot a takedown here in the first 15 seconds, it might be time for a lobotomy. He's got to take this guy down. He's got to get it to the ground immediately. Get in, get out, get your check, go have some fun. And this is exactly the kind of guy. I was saying, remember when we were talking about Brady when Pierce lost his opponent Lingo, and we were like, nobody's picking up the phone to take that fight.
Yeah.
Well, when Michael Gilmore lost James, when he lost Parsons as an opponent, literally Sean Shelby, I think, had 3,000 fighters looking to get that Gilmore fight. I mean, it's pretty much the easiest one on the roster. And you got a guy really who has a very poor ground game against the guy in Brahimaj who has 100% win rate by sub. I just didn't want to overthink this one. That's the high upside play here.
Sounds good right there with you. Monk, how about you? What are you liking for a tournament play here?
I'm going to go back to a guy I previously mentioned, and Misha Cirkunov. And guys, this is just based on a scoring history and probability side of things. Like I said, 107.5 points when he wins, and that's over 6 wins. He's either getting finished or finishing fights early. 103.5 when he loses. Average win, bonus points per win, I should say, almost 80 points each time he wins in bonuses. So he's getting consistent first and second round finishes there. When he loses, he gives up 88 bonus points on average over 5 losses. So that is tons of first and second round losses as well. There are tons of points flying around Misha Cirkunov fights. His strength of schedule is pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean it's just better than Wellington Turman's in the last 5. His takedown landed per 15 differential over his last 5 fights is 3.9. I know you don't necessarily want to go to the ground with Wellington Turman, but I think, Misha Cirkunov, a guy that has 8 submission wins, if he can stay smart and, land I think he will be just fine landing takedowns on Turman here. I see this, as somebody's getting finished, and I'm favoring Cirkunov. So I'll play that as a slightly risky GPP play.
I like that one as well. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, it pains me to say, but I'm going Brahimaj at 9.3. I've been pretty vocal about my issues with the guy over the years, but from a DraftKings perspective, for his upside, second best inside the distance line on the slate, the best round 1 prop on the slate, tailor-made matchup. Gilmore can't grapple. I don't see why Brahimaj can't get his traditional patented first round sub. To your point, I don't know if you really want to go full bore into Brahimaj because he tends to fall off a cliff over a large sample size now at like about the 6 or 7 minute mark of fights. He is taking this fight on short notice, so that's hard to even think his gas tank is going to be better than when it has been. And he's done the same thing when he's had full camps for fights, but it is a levels fight in my opinion. I don't think Gilmore should be in the UFC. Really the only reason he is just because he kind of did a favor for the guys on Tough coming in on short notice. He's not a UFC caliber fighter. I think they're giving the kid a nice little bounce back spot type of W. So Brahimaj round 1 traditional sub. I think you have to have him. He's obviously going to score over 100 points in that scenario, but I would be a little cautious in terms of how much ownership you roster him with.
Yeah, definitely have to be a little cautious, but we'll go to our favorite cash play here. We'll start with you, Weezy. What are you liking for cash this week?
Yeah, probably the same thing that every single other person here is going to say, but I got to, see, you called me first, so I'm going with Islam Makhachev. I mean, he has everything you want in a solid cash play. The best inside the distance line on the slate, a 5-round fight, a short notice opponent. He scores over 4 DraftKings points per minute, and his grappling is constant, and it's at an elite level. Don't overthink it. Just roster this guy.
Yep. How about you, Monk?
I knew that was going to happen, so I picked Armen Tsarukyan, even though I fully agree with is the Islam pick. You must roster him in a ton of lineups. I'm going to give you Armen Tsarukyan. I know Joel Álvarez is a huge dog this week, and rightfully so. Listen, 16 submission wins. Tsarukyan has 19 professional fights, never been subbed. He has 5 sub wins himself. Joel Álvarez has some terrible takedown defense. In fact, in the UFC, it's 0. I think it's only 0 for 4. But I think Tsarukyan is not going to be afraid to take a guy like Álvarez down. I think his fight IQ is better than Thiago Moises anyway, who got completely stunned by Álvarez in the previous fight. I really like Tsarukyan here. Where are his numbers? 1.13 takedown points just in takedown points DraftKings just in take. I know I'm repeating myself. 1.13 per minute. There we go. That is the second best number on the entire card. 0.62 control time points per minute, and he still averages over 2 striking points per minute. Guys, he's scoring from everywhere. Álvarez, like I said, allowing tons of takedowns. I think Tsarukyan, in a decision win, could easily make the optimal lineup here. $9,100 salary is not the best statistically, but I think it has a chance to be this week. So I'll give you Armen Tsarukyan.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll go with Makhachev at 9,500. I just think it's pretty, the obvious option there. Not much to say. I think Weezy pretty much touched on it all. But yeah, give me Makhachev there, 9,500. Feel pretty comfortable with him in there. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, same thing for me as well. I think it is important to note too, with it being a 25-minute fight, Islam hasn't exactly scored great in some 3-round fights, but he's putting up in the 70s. So you'd even project the fact that if it does go a full 25, which I don't think it does, but even in that scenario, he's still going to score over 100 points. He's going to 10x at 9.5 anyway. Obviously that's not a likely outcome, but even just as like a side pivot, from the traditional narrative, he can still score very well in a decision win here. So he's kind of a plug and play. He has to be this week.
Yep, for sure. Agree with that. Let us go to our favorite value play here, and we will start with you, Monk. What are you liking for some value?
Well, just so I don't repeat myself, I would go with Rong. I think he has tons of value here, but I will pick Gregory Rodrigues. This Petrosyan fight might not be an easy one. I believe it was Luke or someone that was talking about, Rodrigues was basically out on his feet against the Iron Turtle and somehow managed to battle through and get a knockout of his own. So he is a bit suspect there, but that's why I like it as a value play. I mean, if he gets a win, we're talking about big numbers, almost 100 points per win. He's got one of the best average values on the card at 12.56, and that's only a 2-fight sample size. But one of those was a loss, and he still had, or no, it wasn't. Sorry, he's 2-0. So yeah, 12.56. He scores very well from striking and takedowns, over 1 point per minute via takedowns, almost 0.37 control time points. So he can score everywhere. And Petrosyan did get taken down, like, I don't know, 45. We'll have to get the count back in here. Get back in here. How many times did Petrosyan get taken down in his Dana White Contender Series fight? It was a ton, spoiler alert. So that is a possible path to victory here. Petrosyan never been submitted, but still only 7 professional fights. So I'll pick Gregory Rodrigues in this spot.
Sounds good to me. For me, I'll go with Priscila cheating at 7,600. Yeah, I think this fight's going to play out really close. I do like the pressure of Priscila. She's going to come forward. And both fighters are very, very hittable, especially cheating. But she's going to, throw probably harder. She's gonna have opportunities to knock out Jin Kim. And I can really see this one going either way, to be honest. So at 7,600, I think she's a decent option. And when she does win, she's scoring very, very well. And yeah, give me some beating here, 7,600. I think she's very live. Weezy, how about you? What are you liking for some value?
Yeah, I like both of those picks from you guys. And I just wanted to build on something Monk said. We saw the comeback victory for Gregory Rodrigues against the Iron Turtle. But if you go back and you watch his regional scene footage, almost the exact same thing happened in the Umar Gaisumov fight in ACB. Gaisumov got off on him, landed some big shots, knocked him down, worked him with ground and pound for a while, and he just barely stayed alive, got back up, landed a big shot, and knocked out Gaisumov. So not only has he come back from the dead once, it's been twice in his professional career that we've seen Gregory Rodrigues do that. And then I also just wanted to comment and say that I think the Yeon Kim against Priscila beating fight will be one of the most interesting things ever, because you have maybe the most hittable woman in the flyweight division in Cachoeira, and you have Yeon Kim, who couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat. Something's got to break there, and I don't know which one it is, but it's going to be very interesting. My value play is going to be Terence Mckinney. He's finished 100% of his pro wins inside the distance, and he has more submission wins than he does KOs. I think Terrance does everything well that Farès has struggled with thus far in the UFC. Terrance pressures and brings chaos and has excellent wrestling and top control. He's got the 9th best inside the distance line on the slate and the 15th highest salary. At dog money is a great start for building a lineup that can roster some of the higher salary fighters like Ramiz and Islam. So I think whether you're taking Farès or McKinney, it's a good way to be in that mid-range and open up an opportunity to get some of those guys that are in the top 5. But yeah, my value play is McKinney this week.
Terence McKinney. Luke, how about you? What are you liking for some value?
Yeah, despite me thinking Brazak Obama can go out here and potentially run homeboy on the ground, I'm going Petrosyan at 7.7. If Rodrigues isn't proactively wrestling or grappling here, which he's not necessarily the guy to come out and dive on legs for 15 minutes historically. He's been more willing to stand and box in recent years, which needs to be noted. I think Petrosyan's really live to snipe him. I think the guy's a pretty good striker, and he's not necessarily just going to stand in the pocket and bang with Rodrigues. And I just don't really like how upright that Rodrigues stands at the same time too. So I think he is live to get sniped. Also, with this being his debut, I don't really know what he's going to get from for ownership from a general DraftKings player standpoint, because he doesn't have any game log, but he's got a solid inside the distance line at roughly 35% and the 7th best round one prop on the slate at 7.7. If Petrosyan does win, I'm almost positive he'll be on the optimal lineup. So for his upside, I think I'm going to have a decent amount of shares of Petrosyan, but I like the fight as a whole to target.
Yeah, definitely. Justin getting pretty upset here. We have not mentioned Joe Álvarez. Joe Álvarez must be a bum. Now, I'll have my fair share of the guy, but yeah. Anybody else really high on Álvarez this week?
I know that Justin is a big Joel Álvarez fan, and I got to tell you, man, I was really expecting all you guys to be picking him as a dog. I know that he's going to be one of the most popular dog plays this week because the guy's been getting big wins. He finishes 100% of his wins inside the distance. It's just that Tsarukyan, man, he could take all the air out of that cage with his wrestling, and I don't know how this fight is going to look. It's one of those fights that's got a lot of variance. It can go a lot of different ways. So, yeah, that's why I didn't pick Álvarez, but it's going to be a very good fight.
Yeah, I'll definitely have some Álvarez, but I'm going to have a lot of both sides in that fight. But we can move on to our favorite dart throw here. Let's start with you, Luke. What are you looking for a dart throw this week?
Yeah, I don't feel good about this one at all, but I'm going homegirl Pascual at 7.39. 7.3. What am I talking about? But yeah, her fight time in recent years has just been kind of so limited in terms of her general footage. You know, she's finishing girls early, so you gotta kind of have to go back and watch some of her stuff from 2017, which wasn't particularly pretty. But the girl is a primary finisher who's shown takedown and submission upside. I think she's actually more of a striker by nature. She's got some good work in the clinch, knees, elbows. She's a big girl. And I think it's also important to note this fight is incredibly low-level WMMA, which just always inherently brings more general variance in terms of who's winning these fights. The fight's also at 145 pounds, and her opponent, Nunes, is only 5'2". You do not see a girl at 5'2" fighting at 145 pounds every day. So I think Pascual is going to have about a 5-foot height inch advantage here as well. A girl in Nunes who's going to sit there and crash the pocket. I think that's going to open up those clinch scenarios for Pascual. Weezy, I think, touched on it earlier in the broadcast that we've seen Nunes stuck on bottom too before. I think Pascual might be the better grappler here. So at 7.3, a short notice girl who's bigger, a complete unknown to pretty much everybody who can finish and is going to be low owned. I love me some Pascual as a dart throw.
Interesting. I went with the same thing. Pascual, 7,300. There's just so many unknowns in this fight. And, you know, she's at Syndicate. You know, she could be making improvements. I went back and watched some of her older fights, and she did look like a huge bum. But, you know, since moving to Syndicate, maybe she's looked a lot better in her last couple fights, finishing her opponents that are not so great. But, you know, Nunes, she can be taken down. She can be held down. Her gas tank is very suspect. And if this fight does get extended, you know, what's the fight going to look like? At 7,300, willing to take some shots, but this is a pretty big mess of a fight. But 7,300, I don't think anybody's going to play her this week. So I will be taking some shots as well. I do like Pascual as a low-owned dart throw. Weezy, how about you? What are you liking?
Yeah, Pascual was my pick too, so I'll give you guys something different. How about Carlos Hernandez at 8,200? This is not a fight I hear a lot of people talking about. Both of these guys are flyweights. They're high output. They throw a lot of strikes, and they mix in the wrestling. Let me just get you a quick little stat from both of these guys in their Contender Series fights. Altamirano's fight and Hernandez's fight both combined for 24 takedown attempts for and against. So Altamirano shot 8 takedowns, and his opponent shot 16. And it was the same thing in the Hernandez versus Candelario fight. So I could see this being a fight where there is a lot of wrestling, where there's a good pace, a high volume pace. And then not only that, Victor Altamirano, when you watch the tape on this guy, it's maddening. He's got very bad takedown defense. And when he gets to his back, he reminds me of Carlos Condit. He'll just stay there and throw a bunch of strikes and ride out the rest of the round and just lose the round on his back. I could see Carlos Hernandez taking advantage of that, piling up a bunch of rinse and repeat takedowns, landing a bunch of ground strikes, potentially getting over 100 points here in a win at an $8,200 salary. I think that'd be a really good dart throw this week.
Yeah, I like him a lot as well, 8,200. And yeah, hopefully he is pretty low because I will be having a decent amount. We didn't really talk about that fight much, but I think it's a pretty solid one, especially on the Hernandez side for me at least. Monk, how about you? What are you liking?
I'll go with Priscila Snatcher Ira for my dart throw of the week, just because I have no idea what's going to happen here. $7,600. Her stats are very just out of balance from both ways. She has a 0.48 power index, which is third best on the card, but also a rough chin, very suspect. When she does win, only 2 fights, 107.69. When she loses in 4 fights, 117.5 points she gives up per loss. She's getting outscored 2 points to 5.5 per minute. Like, so how does she even score 107 points in a win if she's only getting 2? Obviously, she's getting some early finishes, or she's getting finished early. She's shown no takedown points in the UFC so far, no ground control time whatsoever. So I just don't know what to think. I'm going to use her as a dart throw. There's also some salary voodoo in here. The $8,600 and $7,600 pairs also are, like, I think third highest of the winner making the optimal lineup. I don't think Yeon Kim makes the optimal lineup if she wins, so I'll put my dart throw chips on Snatcher Ira here as a dart throw.
There we go. Let's do it. I like it. Okay, so now we'll go into our lineups. If anybody in the chat has a question, type them in the chat now, and then we'll get to them pretty shortly, but we'll go over the results last week. Man, I really thought I had this one in the bag, but we'll talk about who won in a second. So in fourth place, we have Luke with Jamal Hill, Kyle Dawkins, Jessica Rose Clark, Diana Belbita, Abdulrazak Alassane, and Mark Striegel, scoring 327.28 DraftKings points. In third place, Monk with Jonathan Pierce, Jamal Hill, Parker Porter, Joaquin Buckley, Jamie Pickett, and Jay Perrin, scoring 390.97 DraftKings points. In third place, me with Jonathan Pierce, Jamal Hill, Parker Porter, Chaz Skelly, Jesse Strader, and Jay Perrin with 465.06 DraftKings points. And then in first place, the winner of last week, Jonathan Pierce, Jamal Hill, Parker Porter, Abdulrazak Alassane, Jim Miller, Jesse Strader, 470.66 is Uncle Weezy. Congrats, Uncle Weezy.
I'll take it, you guys. The last time I won one of these things, Brady was in high school. So I appreciate the three of you guys, letting your Uncle Weezy get one every once in a while here. Yeah, some of those lower priced options kind of paid off. Strader looked good. I got the win out of Miller there as an underdog. So, and the high priced options paid off. And I'm hoping the same thing happens this week. We'll see. But if you guys want, I'll give my lineup first.
Okay. I was going to go over the
yeah, go ahead. Go do it. Yeah.
The five card results here. So in fourth, it's all really close actually. Fourth place, Luke with 1,970.79. In third place is me with 1,974.40. In second place is Weezy with 2,069.11. And then in first place is Monk with 2,075.32. So y'all very close there. But Weezy, yeah, go ahead with your lineup.
Okay, yeah. So, I pretty much talked about most of these guys. Islam Makhachev at 9,500. I got Ramiz Brahimaj by ass shaving at 9,300. Jonathan Martinez, 8,900. Terrence McKinney, 78. Ramona Pasquale, 73. And Rong Shu, 72.
Okay, for me, I will go with Islam Makhachev, Ramiz Brahimaj, Priscila Catch a Beating, Misha Cirkunov, Terence McKinney, and then Rong Zhu. Luke, how about you?
Yeah, we're all going to have like really – this is going to be an interesting one this week. I'm going Islam, Ramiz, Barack Obama, 8.5, Terence McKinney, Cachoeira, and Rong Zhu.
I like it. Monk, how about you?
Yeah, we're all going to have a bookended lineup here. Islam Makhachev. I'm going Arman Tsarukyan, Gregory Rodrigues, Misha Cirkunov, Alejandro Perez, and Rong Zhu.
Sounds good. Okay, so we'll answer some questions here in the chat. I did see some up at the top. Let's see here. I'll kick this one to Weezy. Mr. Gore saying, who scores higher, Makhachev or Tsarukyan in a win?
That's a good question, because I do think Tsarukyan can get takedowns whenever he wants it. When I broke down that fight on my channel, I basically said that this fight will take place wherever Tsarukyan wants it to take place, because if he wants it on the feet, Joel Alvarez is not capable of taking anyone down. And if Tsarukyan wants it on the ground, Joel Alvarez is not capable of stopping a takedown. But the problem is that Joel is so dangerous off his back. I don't know how aggressive Tsarukyan will be down there. So I think that Makhachev in a 5-round fight has a better submission upside and has a just as good of a takedown upside. But I think that he's got a much better chance of finishing Bobby Green on short notice. So, yeah, I would probably say Makhachev.
Monk, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
I will agree. If Mr. Gore 666 wants a literal answer to his question, the answer is Tsarukyan outscores Makhachev per win by 1.5 exactly. 1.5 DraftKings points per win on average. But Makhachev, I mean, this is going to be his second first-round fight. So he's had 11 fights. 10 of them have only been 3 rounds. So you got to think that number is going to go up with his per minute 3.99 points scored per minute. I mean, you're doing that. Even if you pair it against Bobby Green, who only gives up 2.34 points per minute, you'll split the difference and say, just around 3 or so, maybe a little over 3.2 points a minute. At 25 points a minute, I'll still take that. That's over 75 or 80 plus 30 points for the decision. That's over 110. He'd definitely pay off his salary. But Tsarukyan's no slouch, 3.97 points per minute. So I got both of them in my lineup, if that helps answer your question.
I think they're in wins. I think they both score very good. Luke, we'll kick this one to you. Will Green be able to fight off takedowns for 25 minutes? I think he will get finished eventually, but I don't blame anyone for trying. Plus 600 on Green for a chance to KO Islam. So he's asking, will Green be able to fight off takedowns for 25 minutes?
No, I don't think so. And it's ironic because I actually really value the overall game of Bobby Green. I think he's actually really underrated. I think he's going to actually put up a decent amount of resistance early in this fight, but it's also short notice. I think Islam is one of the best wrestlers we've seen in the history of the UFC. I'll go as far to say that. So despite Bobby Green being tough to take down historically, tough to hold down historically, Islam just has that kind of pace that can just go out there and cook guys. And despite it, us not seeing it for very much happening to Bobby Green, I think Islam can do it to anybody. I'm more so thinking like a round 3, round 4 attritional grinding based submission, kind of similar to like the Thiago Moises fight.
Sounds good. We'll kick this one to Weezy. Kyle Marley, what's up, Kyle? He's saying, we talked about it a little bit, which is the fight that is favored, that is easiest to fade with Fry out?
Yeah, so I said Ignacio Bahamondes, but I really do believe it's going to be Yeon Kim. Priscila Cachoeira is not getting finished by anyone unless you can bring a foreign object into the ring, as if you were like Cowboy Bob Orton back in an 80s wrestling match. But I just don't really see that happening. So, and then because of the high price for Kim, like at about 8,700, I believe, or 8,600, it's really hard for her to cover that with what she scores. Unless she's scoring knockdowns and takedowns, she doesn't really cover that price. And not only does Yeon Kim have no takedowns, Priscila Cachoeira has no takedowns. So it would be surprising if either of these girls even tried one, despite the fact that both of them aren't really good at stopping takedowns. It's not either of their games. So if that's just a striking match with a low probability of a finish, I think that's the easiest favorite to fade is Yeon Kim.
Sounds good. Jake saying Brahimaj sub is only plus 100 on DraftKings. Is there a sub in the first round? I think I saw it at plus 200, but I'm still
plus
waiting.
200, yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for FanDuel to get out something a lot better than that. But yeah, plus 200 there. Let's see here. John saying, who do y'all have as a lock? I don't have a lock on this card. And any of you guys have a lock that you really like? I mean, from a DraftKings perspective, a lock, I mean, I'm going to have a lot of Islam, but
yeah, it's got to be Islam. I mean, you got to put him in your lineup. You have to pay 9,500 for this. You have to.
Any locks for anybody else?
Yeah, Islam and Ramiz feel really safe up there.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me. Let's see, Justin. Luke, we'll kick this one to you. Give us one fight that may go to split decision if we go wild and put 2 fighters in the same fight and both fighters get a lot of volume and points. Is there any fight like that sticks out?
I don't know in terms of a lot of volume and a lot of points, but honestly, I think we can see a very greasy fight from the Cirkunov and Turman fight. Both guys don't throw a lot. I can see a lot of cage push there. Both guys' gas tanks aren't very good. Both are largely defensively cognizant grapplers. I can see that fight looking extremely sloppy, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that the zombie and Kim fight's going to look very sloppy with a lot of volume and probably even a split decision as well. But yeah, that's about it in terms of the questions. We will now go to our quick picks, and I'll kick this one off. And up top, I will go with Islam Makhachev. And Islam Makhachev, Misha Cirkunov, Ignacio Bahamondes, Joe Álvarez, Gregory Rodrigues, Yeon Kim. Hannah Goldie fight is off. Carlos Hernandez, Terence McKinney, Jonathan Martinez, Joe Benavidez, Ramiz Brahimaj. Weezy, how about you?
Yeah, I like Makhachev. I think he's going to win this fight, you guys. I'm putting my reputation on the line here. I'm going to go with Cirkunov. I'm going to go with Cachoeira to march down Yeon Kim and win a really greasy split decision. I got Tsarukyan. I've got Hobo Cop. I've got Zhu Rong. I'm picking Joe Benavidez as well. I'm going with Terence McKinney, Jonathan Martinez, Ramiz Brahimaj by first round ass shaving, and Carlos Hernandez.
Sounds good. Monk, how about you?
Just to go back quick, what Weezy said about the foreign object in the catch. Could you imagine if we hear John Anik say the words, Priscila's got a steel chair? Can you imagine?
She would be the one to bring it in there, man. And if there's
my
anybody that's going to
God.
set the record for the worst UFC cheating, it's
She's got a
Priscila
fire
catching
extinguisher.
Brings out a table.
Yeah, a steel table. Even it's made of wood and everything's steel. We're gonna go Islam Makhachev, Misha Cirkunov, Ji-Young Kim, Armen Tsarukyan, Gregory Rodrigues, Rong, Joey B, Terence McKinney, Jonathan Martinez, Ramiz Brahimaj, and Victor Altamirano.
Sounds good. And then Luke, how about you?
Yep, I'm going Islam, Cirkunov, Kim, even though I think Cachoeira is live in that one, Tsarukyan, Brazak Obama, Bahamondes, Joseph Benavidez. I'm so happy you guys brought me on to that. I can't get that. That's just absolutely phenomenal. Terence McKinney, Jonathan Martinez, Ramiz Brahimaj, and Victor Altamirano.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll see who wins in terms of the lineups next week. Weezy, let them know where we can find you and then what you have going on throughout the week. I know you did a live stream before we got on. You did this live stream, and then you're going to be going live after the Club and Sub podcast, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Check me out on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. I do balls deep breakdowns of fights. I'll be breaking down the Brazak Obama against Petrosyan fight after the Club and Sub podcast is over tonight around 10:30 p.m. Central Time. I'll send out the link to that on Twitter and on YouTube shortly. Yeah, you can find me right here on Pub Sports Radio for the DFS show every week, and then also on Sundays for Stat Diggers with Brady. So yeah, thank you guys for spending your Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon with us, evening, and let's make some money on UFC Vegas 49. Stack cash tickets like flapjacks, you guys.
Let's do it. Monk, let them know where we can find you, what you have going on throughout the week.
Man, could you be imagine being Megan O'Leary? Just when you think you're out of the game, Joey B pulls you right back in, says, I'm not quite done fighting yet.
One more.
You can find me on YouTube at Monk Maddox. You can find me on Twitter, same name. I did put out a game theory breakdown, DraftKings breakdown of all. Well, there were 12 UFC fights for Vegas, UFC Vegas 49. You can catch that on my YouTube channel right now. Be sure to click that and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Other than that, guys, let's have a good time watching these excellent fights this week.
Let's do it. And last but not least, Luke, how about you?
Yep, Twitter, SWR_betting, Patreon, SWR betting as well, bets and content, 4 weekly content pieces out there as well, going live on the Club and Sub podcast here in a few hours on YouTube to run through this entire card from a betting perspective with me and a round table of my boys. Yeah, let's get it this week, guys.
Sounds good. You can follow me on Twitter, DFS_numbers, Instagram, DFS by the numbers, on YouTube, DFS by the numbers. I'll be going live on Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, and then Saturday once more, 1 hour prior to the prelims with Weezy, Eric, and Narco. That's about it, guys. Thank you all for hanging out. I'll be back next week same time, Wednesday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time for my favorite card of the year. We have Jorge Masvidal going against Colby Covington. Cannot wait for that fight. It's something I've been waiting for a long time. And yeah, come back next week. Leave a like on your way out, subscribe, all the good stuff, and we'll talk to you very soon. Good luck at UFC